Lord Farage, how does that sound? A peerage for the party's acting leader, Nigel Farage of UKIP, of course, could be on the cards if one of the three frontrunners in the leadership contest wins it. Well, I'm joined now by one of those frontrunners, Paul Nuttel, the former deputy leader of UKIP and leadership candidate. So what's this Lord Farage of the dog and duck? You think it'd be a good idea? Lord Leave.
I think it'd be a great idea. UKIP should have been given more peerages, or peerages indeed, actually, since 2010. David Cameron obviously had a visceral hatred of us, and we were never awarded one. I think maybe now with Theresa May in the seat, we may well get peerages. And if we do get peerages, then Nigel Farage should be the first on the list because of the achievements.
Small problem is he keeps saying, no, it's absolutely out of the question. He said it to me a couple of times on this programme.
Well, if he's offered it, we'll see what he says internally within the party. I think it would be a fitting tribute to the man who gave us Brexit. Even though Nigel hasn't been in the House of Commons, he has probably been the most influential British politician since the turn of the century. But wouldn't it give, you want it to be you, wouldn't it be giving the next leader of UKIP a bit of a problem? As we all know, Nigel Farage has been a huge figure in the political firmament for so many years now, dominates UKIP. He's been leader or acting leader 4 times now. Doesn't he have to step back a bit? If he's got a platform in the House of Lords, he's overshadowing the leader if it's you. I don't think so. Let's not forget, I've had a huge platform in UKIP as well. I've been the party chairman, I've been the deputy leader, I've been head of policy.
But, if we did bother to poll it, who'd finish first, you or Nigel?
Well, obviously, across the country, more people know Nigel Farage, but the two of us have been the face of UKIP probably for the past decade. We work closely together, and we will continue to work closely together if I'm elected as the leader.
Yeah, but the continuity Nigel candidate is Raheem Kassam, isn't he? That's who Nigel's backing.
Nigel isn't backing anyone in this election. I don't think it would be right that he did so, because as the party leader, he shouldn't be influencing how the party vote. And look, my track record with Nigel is there for everyone to see. We came at this together, and the both of us sorted out the last time UKIP was in an existential crisis in 2008, and we took us from 0% in the polls to finishing second in the European elections the following year.
So there are many shades within the leadership candidates now about which direction and how much emphasis UKIP should have on so many important issues. Now, we want to put some flesh on the bones of your policy beliefs. First of all, we've got some clips of you talking about the refugee crisis, of course, very, very important at the moment, given what's going on in the end of the so-called jungle camp in Calais. And, this is what you've said about refugees. I want to see if you still stick with them, Mr. Nuttel.
One of the founding principles of the European Union, Mr. Timmermans, is freedom of movement of people. What we're probably allowing in now is freedom of movement of jihad. And I fear in the future, in the very near future, we will all have blood on our hands as a result.
So you think, amongst that's freedom of movement, but even amongst the refugees, there could be those that want to do harm to the UK.
Do you know what happened a couple of weeks after that speech? Paris. OK? I was absolutely right in what I said. And the other issue regarding the refugees is we need to find out if they are actually refugees or whether they're economic migrants.
Or jihadis.
Or indeed jihadis. ISIS have made it perfectly clear what their intention is, and it is to flood the European continent with jihadis, and we've seen what's happened in Brussels, we've seen what's happened in Paris. If we don't get a grip on this, then I do fear there will be more attacks down the line.
So on the people, let's refer it to the jungle camp, all the people who've come in, and some of them, as we know, it's questionable whether they're children or not. Do you think we should be letting any of them in? And today we've got the call from President Hollande to take, 1,500 more.
Well, I think we should be checking their age, and as I say, I'm not sure how we do that, but I believe it is not beyond the wit of man to check the age of these people, and if they're not children, they shouldn't be coming in, because let's not forget, these people are breaking international law. They're breaking the Geneva Convention, and they're also breaking the Dublin Protocol, which is part of EU law, whereby you have to claim asylum in the first safe country in which you land. These people should be dispersed in France.
NHS, of course, huge in British politics, comes top or close to top in the surveys of so many people's concerns. Now, you believe that there should be, I don't know if you still believe that there should be more private involvement in it. This is another clip of you.
I believe that the NHS is a monolithic hangover from days gone by, and unfortunately we're becoming, or fortunately shall I say, we're becoming an older population, and quite frankly I would like to see more free markets introduced into the health service, because this is the way Boo hiss.
Let's face reality here. This is where it has to go.
Well, I mean, just to explain to our viewers, and to you, I'm sure you're aware, we put the bleep in there, not because we're bleeping out what you're saying, because the audience reaction there involved some pretty fruity language, it must be said. Do you still believe more free market involvement in the NHS?
That was a hustings in 2011 in a parliamentary by-election in which I stood. The hustings was flooded with hard-left activists. Look, what I have said about the NHS is simply this. I believe it needs to be streamlined. It cannot be right that 51% of people who work in the NHS in England are not clinically qualified. It's too big, it's cumbersome, and where I do believe we could have more free markets is in places like procurement, whereby the NHS itself is paying sometimes 10 to 30 times over the odds for drugs. If you brought in a private company, you could hire and fire them on results that they got for the British people.
But the streamlining's interesting then. Do you then go along, I mean, following that naturally, if it's smaller it can deal with fewer people, that those that can afford it should get some kind of insurance, and then that's the way they take the burden off the NHS?
What I was talking about, where I'm talking about streamlining, isn't streamlining in the sense of cost. We should be spending more money on the NHS, and UKIP's commitment in its last manifesto was £3 billion a year. What I want to see is that money spent on doctors and nurses, not middle management and pen pushers.
Now, you've been deleting quite a lot of your social media activity. Is that so? Well,
no,
yes, you have. Well, nothing at all.
I don't think so, no.
You've got no skeletons there. I mean, if it comes to this real scrutiny of what you've been saying.
I don't believe I've been deleting anything off my social media. Maybe you've got the wrong candidate.
OK, what are your views on abortion then?
I believe that I would reduce the number of weeks probably down to 12 weeks. I've been pretty open about that, but that isn't going to be UKIP policy when I come to take on the leadership if I'm elected. You know, what we're quite committed to is holding national referendums. If a certain percentage of British people sign a petition, it would trigger a referendum. It's called direct democracy. I have my opinions on abortion. Other people within the party have different opinions.
Well, would you have a referendum on that? I mean, you're saying it's a personal belief. Would you have a referendum on that in one of these direct referenda you're talking about?
Well, that would be for the British people to decide. We would open all of this kind of thing up because we believe in direct democracy, we believe in referenda, and we believe in following the people.
And you'd have one on capital punishment? Well,
if enough people decided that was required, then so be it. Look, you know, I'm relaxed about all of these kind of things.
I mean, you're in favour of bringing back certain crimes you want to bring it back.
In terms of capital punishment, I've been quite open that I believe in capital punishment for the killers of children, people like Ian Huntley, Ian Brady and whatnot, which is what the majority of the British people think.
What about climate change? I mean, what effect do you believe? I mean, do you believe it's happening, and what effect do you believe that humankind is having on making it happen?
I believe that the climate has always changed, and no one can deny that. But what I do question is the effect that man is having on the climate. I mean, you know, why was the globe warmer 1,000 years ago than it is now? Why was the globe warmer 2,000 years ago than it is now? You know, I think there needs to be far more research into this before we make leaps into pushing policies like the Climate Change Act, for example, which harm our economy.
And lastly, just Donald Trump. We know Nigel Farage is very keen on seeing him elected, if possible, in the United States. You must be heartened about the latest furore with Hillary Clinton and those emails. And do you think that there were some of the accusers about Donald Trump and what he's been doing alleged to be doing to some of those women? Do you think some of them are making it up?
I am quite open that I'm not a fan of either candidate in the American election. I would probably vote for the Libertarian candidate.
But it's boys' talk. I mean, locker room talk, a lot of it.
I would never advocate that kind of language.
Okay.